Hey everyone. This is a continuation of an Ascension Handbook by Tony Stubbs. We've read What is Energy? Um, we've read the preface to it, which is Ascension, What is it? Um, so far, we've covered the first, or part one, and part one was space, time, and motion. What is energy? Now we're starting part two, which is the nature of matter. It's going to be about holograms, standing waves, and energy fields. It's pretty cool. I've read through the preface to the nature of matter just prior to getting to what is holograms, just the overview of just what is matter. It's pretty cool. It's just like a physics class, basically. This is going to be a science class on physics and solids, gases, and different states of matter and how energy comes into being. How does energy come from a non physical place, a consciousness, into a physical plane? And how is it measured? How can we see where that energy is coming from? Um, it just doesn't seem like we're able to measure energy in its pre existing state from coming into a particle or a subatomic particle, energy forming a nucleus. Um, it just doesn't seem like we're able to measure that because, like we found in part one, instruments can only measure what frequencies at a level that they are. So we need like a super frequency scale instrument to measure super frequencies. We can only measure frequencies that are at the lowest octave right now in the physical nature. We can only measure things that are physical. So there's physically no way that we could measure energy before it comes into being. Uh, Sorry, my nose itches like crazy tonight. Um, it just seems like we're not able to figure it out until we become higher beings and we're in a higher state than this physical body. That we're never going to be able to measure what energy is before it comes into the physical plane. So metaphysical energy, I guess. Consciousness. We're not able to measure consciousness. Because if all things begin with a thought, then the thought is the original energy that went into that. It was just the energy was converted. Sorry, this is just a little thought that I'm having. It's just a realization of just wow. Wow. Well, let's go ahead and move into the nature of matter, section 2. So far, I've drawn us a distinction between the physical plane and higher dimensions. Now, in one sense, there is no distinction because all dimensions are of the same stuff, just like all 7 octaves of a piano make sound. The only difference is one of pitch or frequency. In a piano, each octave is reproduced 7 times. The individual notes simply being higher harmonics of those in a lower octave, those in lower octaves. In another sense, there's a big distinction, one of awareness. Suppose you had a hearing impairment, which meant that you could only hear the lowest octave. The low notes would sound very real to you. But when the pianist's hands moved to the right, you would see the movement but hear nothing. You would be puzzled to hear people talking about sounds you just didn't hear. You might be angry and accuse them of making it all up. Think them insane. Just shrug and say, I don't get it. Or you might feel deprived when others enthused about the beauty of the Moonlight Sonata, for example. How would you react if someone said that? With a little practice, you could hear even the highest notes. So how would you feel if someone said to you, with a little practice, you could hear even the highest notes? Well, I think that's what we're doing right here, friends. We're getting the handbook. We're getting Mr. Tony Stubbs' channeled material through his spirit guide Serapis on how to get into these higher frequencies and these higher notes, and then how to hear them. So what we're talking about is how to get in touch with our higher self and how to hear them. So I think this book is going to be pretty promising with how to get in touch with your higher self, your higher selves, actually. It wouldn't just be one higher self, it would be multiple selves. If there's, say, 88 keys on a piano, they all play the same notes, but they play in different octaves, scales. So each one getting higher and higher as it goes. Hopefully this book will reveal to us how to play all the notes at the same time. This is very awesome. Very awesome. This book is very revealing. The piano keyboard is a useful analogy. The 5 physical senses are intended to detect only certain of the octaves of the universe around you. They can detect lower octaves, but cannot detect those that are higher. You have other senses that are intended for the higher octaves of the universe, but these currently lie dormant within most of the human species. These senses are constantly working and interacting with this higher frequency of energy, but your brain screens it out. This is deliberate. You could not maintain your brilliant focus in the physical plane if you were bombarded with all the additional input available, if all the additional input is available in any given moment. Imagine reading this and simultaneously knowing all the probable outcomes of reading it for you and your friends and family, plus being aware of all the thoughts and emotions of those around you and how these resonated with their other incarnations. Even when non-physical input does intrude into your conscious awareness and you are forced to acknowledge it, you are culturally imprinted to find some other explanation for it. Yeah, we are taught. We've been, call it indoctrinated, our whole lives on what to think, what to feel, and how to feel it, and when to feel it. Whatever the situation might be, whatever, we are taught that this cup feels like a cup, it looks like a cup, so it must be a cup. We're taught to identify everything around us, instantly judging it as to what it is, who it is, what its purpose is. What if I were to tell you that maybe we just don't know? Maybe we've been taught lies our whole life. It's most certainly possible. Maybe, a cup is a ball. I'm just throwing it out there, just BSing, but, maybe we've been taught wrong. And we need to find something that's actually on a higher level, that is above human thinking, that is above our ability to think in this physical world. let's move on. Let's move on. Enough of me talking. Let's just get back to the book. What you see as physical matter is simply energy of one of the lower octaves vibrating in a field which was specially created for the purpose. There are many octaves of energy above this where other levels of your being exist, fully functioning, alive, and aware, and up to all kinds of tricks. Consciously contacting these other levels of your being is very easy. You do it all the time. Oh, that's nice. Like when an idea pops into your head, or when you suddenly feel happy for no apparent reason. Sorry. And of course, dreaming is simply these other levels of your being at work or play. But I don't mean the few scattered chaotic symbols that are left lying around when you wake up. I mean the large-scale reality creation and manipulation that you do every night on other levels of your being. What you think of as dreaming is like looking at a house in shambles and wondering how good the party was. You've missed all the fun and are just left with the debris. Sorry, my nose really itches. So how does physical matter arise from this low octave of energy? The beings who created physical incarnations and others form whom it is their function. Wow, I read that right and it just sounds like it's written really wrong. Let's skip the parentheses. The beings who created physical incarnations organize units of conscious energy into particular patterns in a particular frequency band set up especially for the purpose. These patterns make up every apparent solid thing you know. These patterns make up every apparently solid thing you know. Now we come to the true miracle of the physical plane. The way that these conscious energy units burst through into the physical plane from the next higher plane to form the basic electromagnetic units that you know as subatomic particles. The building blocks that you have named electrons, protons, neutrons. Your scientists are on a verge of detecting this process, and some of the more imaginative of them already have an intuitive understanding of it. In turn, these building blocks of conscious energy then collaborate further to form atoms of a particular element, such as carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, etc. An atom may appear to be a very simple construct, electrons rotating around a central nucleus, and in one sense it is, but in another sense it is the most complex thing on the physical plane. The geometry and algebra that went into the design of the physical plane's atoms would keep most of your largest computers busy for centuries. Matter didn't just happen. It was carefully planned, and we had to know how matter would behave under all circumstances before we went ahead with its creation. Do not think for a moment that the consciousness projecting the electron is tiny. The electron is not a tiny particle, but a probability field. Okay, it's a probability field. So that goes back to some things in time, and I'll go ahead and briefly highlight it when we finish this. A part of space in which the consciousness exists, but in such a subtle way that scientists cannot be sure. So they say the electron probably exists. That consciousness can collaborate in countless fields in countless universes simultaneously. Atoms may remain free or bond together to form molecules. Molecules then bond together to form the shape determined jointly by the energy units themselves and the organizing entity. Beings take responsibility for directing energy in the form of atoms or molecules according to the patterns. For a crystal or rock, for a cell in a plant seed, or a tree, and so on. The list is endless, of course, but the patterns are rather like personal computers. They are both living programs and databases simultaneously, and can store vast amounts of information. The DNA structure at the heart of every one of your body's cells is a database containing the history of you and your co-incarnations, plus that of the entire species. Yeah, would they think that like 95% of our DNA is junk DNA? I'm telling you, the source didn't give us junk. That stuff's there for something. How about fluid memory? Just throwing it out there. Cellular memory. That each part of our DNA, every little thing plays a part in creating us and everything about us. They also say that, well, scientists, I don't know if scientists are saying it yet, but I know that spiritualists they think that our incarnations, the memories that each one of our incarnations in the past have written their history and their life events on each cell, that we have instant memory of it if we can only unlock it. Could you imagine living 100 times in the past and tapping into all 100 lives' knowledge? That would just, oh man, I'm speechless. That would just be incredible. For example, a tree grows under the guidance of an energy being. Call it a tree spirit if you like, which conceives the tree blueprint and organizes energy units accordingly. Once organized, the energy remembers its function and continuously maintains the subatomic particles arranged in ever larger patterns. When you look at the tree, you are really seeing pure energy organized into a pattern by a conscious, aware being. Your brain decodes this visual energy pattern as tree through habit. So maybe the cup isn't really just a cup. Maybe the tree isn't really just a tree. It's all energy, pure energy, vibrating at such a low rate that it becomes a tree, that it becomes solid, and we can physically see it, touch it, smell it, so on and so forth. Your brain decodes this visual energy pattern as tree through habit. When you touch the tree, your hand and the tree are two energy fields touching. But your nervous system puts all this information together and decodes the contact as tactile simulation. Your brain then uses all available data to build the overall construction you know as a tree. If a carpenter then comes along and chops down the tree and uses the wood to make a chair, he alters the shape of the largest field. The conscious energy units making up the wood remember their new pattern and faithfully maintain it until something else happens, such as burning the chair. Then the conscious energy of the cellulose molecules repatterns itself into free carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen atoms, for example. Just to introduce an idea of scale, the space within and between these atoms is vast. If an atom were the size of a football stadium, the nucleus would be about the size of a football in the center of the stadium. The first ring of electrons would be out around the first row of seats, and each ring of electrons might be 50 rows apart. The next nearest atom would be as far away as the next city. Whoa. Sorry, I got really close there. So when we talk about solid matter, it's far from solid. And those electrons you think of as little particles have no weight at all. Whoa. So they don't even weigh a thing. They're immeasurable, is what they're saying. They are just packets of energy whizzing around the nucleus at an enormous speed. It's their speed that gives them apparent substance or a pre-materialistic stage. Just like a speeding bullet has more impact than one just thrown at you. It's got kinetic energy. It's got to have way more impact than one just tossed at you. Even the nucleus isn't solid. It too is made up of smaller particles, neutrons and protons, which on closer examination also turn out to be made up of still smaller particles. At this level, we are approaching the point at which pure energy manifests as what you think of as matter, and the infinitesimally short time periods that this takes, we are also close to the limits of physical instruments. They can detect the sudden appearance of a subatomic particle, but not its actual transformation from pure energy, because the energy unit that created it is non-physical energy, and this does not register on physical instruments. We were talking about that at the beginning of the video, that physical instruments are only good up to the matter that they were created by. They can only measure matter, the same rate of matter that created it. So the things that it's made up as, it can only detect those things. It can't detect energy from a different dimension. Makes you wonder how they're detecting dark matter and dark energy. Makes you wonder how CERN works, huh? Physicists have concluded that the only time subatomic particles are actually particles is when they observe them, and that the rest of the time they are waves of energy. So researchers can never know the condition of an unobserved electron. And there is, therefore, no way to determine the basic structure of the physical plane or explain its workings. So they're telling you they have no flippin' idea how this all came into being. From the Big Bang, what created the bang? That's what we're trying to get to. And they have no idea. There's no way for them to ever tell. It's always going to be a theory. See, like the theory of gravity. Gravity's not even proven. You can't even prove that gravity exists. Motion. All of these things are all theories. Relativity is a theory. There's no way to prove it because no one on this physical plane can go to a non-physical plane and tell you how it gets here from that place. We're never going to know. Death is only the greatest adventure that you'll ever have in your entire life. That's so true. At a deeper level, we're talking about conscious energy bursting into the physical plane and then flying around at enormous speeds, giving the appearance of solidity, just like the blades of an electric fan in motion look like a solid disk. So is the material universe just an illusion? Yes. It's all done by holograms and standing waves. Holy shit. There it is, out of the mouth of Tony Stubbs, through his channeled entity, Serapis. Yes, it's all done by holograms and standing waves. I'm liking this book even more and more. If it makes me confused and makes me question everything I've ever known, it's a good book. The basis of all organization of energy into matter is the standing wave. This idea is vital to understanding what you are and how you manifest. What follows may sound a little like physics, but it's at the heart of metaphysics. So that's the overview of matter and the nature of matter. Got a few things highlighted in here. You have other senses that are intended for higher octaves of the universe, but these currently lie dormant within most of the human species. These senses are constantly working and interacting with this higher frequency energy, but your brain screens it out. That's messed up, brain. I'd like to experience these. So how do we physically train our brain to think on non-physical things and to coexist with these higher frequencies on a conscious level instead of a subconscious level? How do we get there? That dormant senses. Consciously contacting these other levels of your being is very easy. You do it all the time. Like when an idea pops into your head or when you suddenly feel happy for no apparent reason. So he's saying that we do it all the time on a subconscious level. Kind of like dreaming and stuff. That on a or when you're happy for no reason. Just all of a sudden happy. Let's do this. That's something to think of. It's something to think about. I'm definitely going to be pondering this as I go to bed tonight. It's definitely going to be bringing this all before the Father. Miracle of physical plane. The way that these conscious energy units burst through into the physical plane from the next higher plane to form the basic electromagnetic units that you know as subatomic particles. And I wrote electron up here, and the electron is not a tiny particle, but a probability field. So an electron is a probability field, capable of many, many possibilities. You can write it however you manifest in it. Beings take responsibility for directing energy in the form of atoms or molecules according to patterns for a crystal, a rock, or a cell in a plant. A tree grows under the guidance of an energy being. So there's a being directing energy, thinking that tree into existence. And then the subatomic particles remember exactly how the being thought that tree into existence, and it maintains its shape until the atoms are changed by another being, by a physical being, obviously, and a non-physical being. Oh, this is just amazing. Physicists have concluded that the only time subatomic particles are actually particles is when they observe them. So, the only time that subatomic particles are visible is when they are actually being observed. When they're not being observed, they are particles is when they are being observed. And that the rest of the time they are waves of energy. So it's just raw energy whenever they're not being observed. Wow. So is the material universe just an illusion? Yes, he says. It's all done by holograms and standing waves. The basis of all organization of energy into matter is the standing wave. I think I'll look up what a standing wave is, and we can go ahead and put that definition into the video at the end of this. So right now our next segment is going to be on holograms. It is, it's not too long of a section. Maybe I'll stay up and do that for the next video tonight, and I'll just add it into another video. This video so far is almost about 30 minutes. So I'll add it into another one, that way you guys don't feel like you have to spend hours on this thing. Bless you all. I've thoroughly enjoyed doing this for you guys and doing this with you. Hopefully you guys will leave me some comments, some questions, and we can, whatever you guys have any questions on, let's, we'll find the answer together. Why not? God bless you all. May peace be upon you.